Welcome to the Becoming Sound podcast, where we dive into the tough stuff and try to find the humor in the hot mess of being an adult child. Join me as we peel back the layers on growing up in dysfunction, navigating substance abuse, mental health challenges, and everything in between. Thanks for joining me today on the Becoming Sound podcast. I am Krista, your host, and if you like what you hear today, please share it with someone that you love. Give us a follow, a rating, or a review. And I would love to hear feedback from you. And I really appreciate you being here with me today. So my guest today is Tanya Horne, and she is a licensed counselor, an integration specialist, and the co-creator of Let's Get Infinite. She is a mystic in motion, a highly intuitive facilitator, a deep listener, and a creative architect of soul-led transformation. She offers a powerful presence that gently invites people to peel back the layers, step out of performance, and reconnect with the truth of who they truly are. Tanya's brand is about real change, not surface level self-help. And today we're going to learn about what that really looks like. So stick around till the end. You're going to want to hear Tanya's biggest takeaways, and her energy is so magnetic. So let's get started. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me, Tanya. I'm so glad you're here. I'm excited about our little chat today. So before we kind of get into what you do, I just want you to just tell people just kind of an overview of your story and your lived experiences and kind of what brought you to do what you're doing now.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity. Short version, I don't know if that is possible, but we'll start with
Whatever you feel
married,
like.
divorced, and a mom by 19. So lived
Okay.
experience of alcoholism in the home growing up, lots of abuse cycles, sadly, and neglect in childhood, which caused me to be an overfunctioner, also known as a people pleaser. Going back and understanding that my humor and wit was born out of trauma and is now a great tool of mine that I can use, a great strength of mine. But really investigating how that environment growing up caused me to limit showing up in the world as who I really am and started showing up as more of my pseudo self and took direction as to who I was supposed to be based on who I was being in front of. So being a mom, a teenage mom was very interesting. High school dropout, also returned to high school and graduated with honors. I have 3 kids. And a sordid past and history, 3 different dads. So I'm no I have lots of lived history with all of those things. Unfortunately, a byproduct of domestic abuse in 2 of my marriages, which ended in divorce, obviously, and ended. And unfortunately, my kids endured some sexual abuse in their childhoods due to my husband I was married to at the time. So court proceedings, et cetera, having to hold my children through their own abuse cycles and really coming to terms with the fact that all abuse in our family, his system and the history of that came to a head where it was like, okay, so I want to change the pattern. I want to break the cycle. So that's where I really stood up and started doing my work about 25 years ago when my son disclosed his abuse and started really realizing, because I hadn't been doing all of the work as an adult. I read on your website, it's not our fault what happens to us as a child, but it is our responsibility as an adult to pick up the pieces and start to really take a look at healing those things from the source instead of just pretending that everything is fine.
And I think that gives us a great opportunity to, even though our children may have been affected in some way by us not having that healing space at the time, but we can change that for them too. That we're not just breaking the cycle for us, but we're breaking those patterns for them too.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. That led me to become a published author, to sort of tell my story. One of the things that I wanted to change in retrospect to my childhood, which was shadows. We don't talk about it. We hide it. We lie about it. All of those things to avoid dealing with any of the pain or the circumstances that were happening throughout my childhood. And really coming to terms with the fact that when we keep things in the shadows, kind of like mushrooms, they grow and they grow and they're systemic and nothing good comes out of those growths. So really keeping it out in the open, keeping it in the light, really coming back to love as a resource and not hate and vitriol, not teaching my children how to feel, but asking them how they felt along the way and understanding that
Mhm.
with three children and myself, we all four of us had a very different experience of that same experience. So, really holding a lot of space for everybody to navigate that stuff. And as a typical mom, putting my kids first and not knowing that I was actually important in that process, not that there was time or energy to do so, that led me to, in 2020, when COVID hit, to reevaluate what I wanted to do with my life. I had been 33 years in the counseling seat as a client, really trying to sort through my own experiences. And so I went back to school, and I am now a registered therapeutic counselor as well. So just using my lived experience to help others, similar to what I read on your website too, just all of those people that gave to you wanting to give back in that same respect. So that leads me to today, where I am a coach, a mindset coach, a
Mhm.
registered therapeutic counselor. I'm a stand-up comedian. I use stand-up as a medium to explore anti-diet culture and diet culture, putting
Mhm.
end to stigmas around mental health, and standing up in my own power and saying, yeah, even though it was tragic, all of these things that happened to me along the way, that I can hold both fear and sadness and grief while experiencing levity and joy and humor. And so using that as a strength and a tool to move forward in those situations that feel sometimes too heavy and too hard to take a look at.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for explaining that so beautifully. I
Mhm.
love the reference that you make to being able to hold both things at the same time, because so many times we think that we have to fix and get rid of a part of us that it's just not possible. It's just part of us. But we can expand capacity so that we can hold both. I absolutely
Absolutely.
love that.
Right
Yeah,
on.
it's beautiful. Yeah, and I wish more people really could grasp and understand that. They would have more grace for themselves in that
100%.
healing
Yeah,
process.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. We tend to be our own worst enemy, right? Where we're the
Oh,
meanest to ourselves and the people
yeah.
directly around us. So it's a
Exactly,
practice.
exactly. I love it. I love it that you do stand-up comedy. I have to say I have a friend who is has been on the podcast, and she's in the business space as well, and creating joy and all that kind of stuff, but she loves to do stand-up too, and I absolutely love it because the humor from people who have really been to the dark side of their soul is I think just some people get it and some people don't.
It's true.
But
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So tell me what I know, because your business has the word infinite in it. And what does that actually mean to you?
Oh my gosh. Well, but it was a t-shirt designed to begin with, and it was
Yeah.
more of a play on, let's get intimate, let's get infinite. And so it
Okay.
was just kind of playful. And my girlfriend and I, we've been friends for 46 years this year. We met when we were 9. Both of
Oh
us
wow.
just had a light bulb moment of like, let's get infinite. So this idea that we're constantly and continually evolving into the next version of who we are. So this idea of the infinite, which holds all of the possibilities of everything and things that I don't even understand or that we can't even comprehend, right? So the idea um, that we're going to continue to be evolutionary beings and that we're going to continue to be compelled to evolve into that next version of
Mhm.
ourselves. I think that it's a big enough container to hold the
Yeah.
fact that of what we're going for, in the infinite of it all. Yet my partner and I, he's very analytical and he explains to me that infinite isn't actually infinite, and all of the sort of experiences he has that eventually it will end. And I'm like, okay, but
Yeah.
that's eventually and it's very far away. So
Yeah, exactly.
holding that idea that
He's doing math. He's
infinite.
doing male math or
Yes,
female
he
math. I'm not
is,
sure.
he really is, yes, absolutely, bless him, and he seeks to understand too, and he certainly thinks, maybe I'm a little far out there, but he's coming along for the ride, so we're gonna
Oh,
keep
that's
inviting him.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
good.
for sure.
It's whatever the support looks like, because yeah, you can't all have the same experience, right, with it. So
Exactly.
I
Ex
love that. So I also like the fact that that infinite word and how you described it is so many people forget that they are, and they
yeah.
are putting caps on things. And what do you think really blocks access to that
Mm.
remembering?
conditioning patterns. I have a strong belief that internal family systems and Bowen family systems plays a huge role in all the ways
Mhm.
that we are wired as children, our survival functions that we're born as our most authentic self. And then along the way, we start to forget who we really are and what we're really about because we're conditioned to respond to what life is giving us. So when that
Yeah.
life is reflecting that we need to be someone different, we start fracturing and fragmenting into those parts and pieces of us that are not completely congruent and not completely aligned with who we say we are. So we start showing up in the world as who we need that or that person needs us to be. And I think it takes a toll over time on what we're meant to do in this world, who we are meant to be, why it happens, conditioning, patterns, rules, those rules in the family systems or the systems that we work within too, right? They're government systems, all of
Yeah.
everything's a system. So we start to take direction about what we think we should be doing instead of necessarily tuning into that intuitive sense that we actually are born with. It's innate. Each one of us is born with that. And because sometimes it can create conflict, we get scared or
Mhm.
diminished in our capacity to know where to put our step, and what to say and who to say it to. So I think people get
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. I resonate with all of this so much because I come from a similar background, right?
Mhm.
So, and you do. And sometimes it's scarier to remember than it is to stay in your comfort zone, which is harming you or not helping you grow. So,
100%. Yep.
yeah, yeah. And that really means then a lot of people look functional on the outside, but on the inside, they're disconnected with themselves and they don't know how to reconnect, right?
Yes.
What what's kind of one step that we could take to actually bridge that gap a little
Mm,
bit?
mm. Good question. For me, for the longest time, I have believed that I needed to earn my worth by being in service to others.
Uh,
And putting their needs before mine, I just thought it was just an automatic, and because I learned it at such a young age, it was just something that was conditioned into me. Now, of
yeah.
course, leaving my parents' house, moving directly in with my first husband, having a baby by I was 17 by the time I had him. So, married, divorced, and had a baby by 19. I hadn't even finished high school yet. So those
Wow.
kinds of conditions created this portal of be in service for everyone else. And I'm 54, and it wasn't until this last year of some pretty serious, in-depth counseling, which I've been doing most of my life, but just the layers that we've been peeling back finally I came to terms with the fact that most other people in my life consider themselves. They consider themselves. They consider what they need. They consider their capacity. They consider what they can and can't do, and they act appropriately and accordingly. And I go, oh, okay, well, I should take care of this, and I should take care of that, and I'm supposed to cook the dinner and clean the dishes and do all the things for everybody, and then wonder why I feel martyred and resentful and a bit pissy about all these things that I do for everybody else, and it was always out of love, it was always out of consideration, but coming to the true understanding that when I consider myself and I tell myself the truth, that I can more
Mhm.
easily tell others the truth. And they may not like it at first because it's a shift in the pattern of the way that we've always done things. But what I'm
Yeah.
coming to understand is that I don't actually need them to agree with me in order for me to feel honoring and respectful to myself, and they adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
And so
They'll
it's a
adjust
different
to the
way of doing
boundary.
life, right? But I'm
Yeah.
loving it so far this year, and maybe for the past 6 months, just doing life differently and really considering myself. So I think that's a key, you know,
Yeah.
and telling myself
Uh,
the truth, like, what is my actual capacity? Just because I
yeah.
have capacity or bandwidth most days doesn't mean that I have it in this moment. If I
It
tell myself the truth about that.
doesn't mean you need to use it all in one
Right?
day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
I can save it for reserves. Absolutely.
exactly. I think
Mhm.
that's what we think is if I'm capable of this, then I can just do it all.
That I
I
should.
have that
Yeah.
mentality. Yeah, that I should
Yep.
just do it all. I should be able
Yep.
to.
Yep.
Oh my God. I can't even like that's like a rabbit hole we could go down.
It is
No
true.
kidding.
Yep.
It's so true. And why at 54? I'm 55, so right in the same
Mhm.
ballpark here. And I'm just learning these last probably 2 to 3 years about
my own capacity and how to say yes to myself too. Like
Mhm.
1,000%. Yeah, I couldn't have said
Yeah,
it better.
and reading your website, I was like, "Oh, we're soul sisters, you and I."
Yeah, exactly,
We
right?
had some
I
things in
know.
common. Yeah, you bet.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I just don't think there's just so many women floating around out there not understanding who they are, but not even questioning it either, like getting curious about it. I was never curious about myself. I just accepted certain things. This is
Mhm.
who I am. This is what I do. And this is how I do things. And that's it.
Yeah.
And my whole world opened up in the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel similar to that, and just
Mhm.
really understanding that no one's going to come by and say, "Well, you deserve, this and this and this," because they're busy considering themselves. So it really
Oh yeah.
became evident to me. I had my son home; he's 35, and I love him, and we have a great relationship now. Not so much when he was a teenager, but we made it through, and he's survived, and so have I. But in all the ways that he considers himself, I'm like, I wonder what that would be like. And so I just
Yeah.
started trying it on, and I was like, okay, this is remarkable. I really like this. Now, again, other people are like, but it's always been this way, and we like it
Yeah.
this way because this is our comfort around you. And I'm like, too bad. I get to choose me at this point and stage of my life, and I'm really enjoying. Um, I'm exhausted after hustling for my
Yeah.
worth for 54 years. And so
Oh
I
my
am
God. No
very glad
kidding.
to get to a place where I'm like, you know what? I matter. I get to decide. I get to check in with myself and actually make decisions based on what I actually need instead of considering what everybody else needs first. And then typically, us moms end up on the bottom of the list that gets put off till
Hmm.
tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And then forever goes by. And those things have an impact, right?
Oh
They have an
yeah,
impact.
for sure. And you
Mhm.
wonder why women in midlife are wanting divorces or wanting
Yeah,
to run away or
of
yeah,
course.
just having breakdowns because their capacities are full. Like we're
Oh,
just full, right? And so you just can't, you can only hold so much without having something break. That's how I felt. You know?
absolutely, and the demands are endless, right? I mean, if
Yeah.
we don't put boundaries in and know healthy boundaries and explore those things called, well, just because it's always worked that way doesn't mean that it will always work that way. Like, do I actually want to keep doing this, or is it something that I've lost passion for, or that I can say no to now? It reminds me, Krista, of when COVID hit. Like I had spent about 10 years as a recluse, unable to go outside, unable, and I love people. So it was a very big dichotomous experience for me. But of course, I was traumatized and laying on my couch, severely depressed. And I thought to myself, okay, well, you have to keep your kids alive. So feed them, school them, house them. And I managed to do those things. And I started creating some traditions. So even though our world was completely obliterated and we were doing court proceedings and there was all kinds of really messy stuff, I was like, okay, so how can I bring these guys together? So we created conversations over dinner. We sat at the dinner table for eating. And I now see 25 years later where my grandkids, who are 2 and 4 and almost 8, now sit for meals and they have conversations around their table. So I can see the impact that a choice I made 25 years ago when I was in the muck, when I really didn't know what the future was going to look like, and it certainly wasn't anything bright, or didn't feel at the time. I was convinced that I would never smile again, that I would never laugh again, that I would never have levity and love and laughter in my life, that I knew that those grounding foundations, going back to sort of some of the basics that we could do, right? So eating together as our meals together, somewhat forcing conversations with teenagers that really didn't want to talk to me. There were expectations put around that stuff. So when COVID hit, and I had just sort of rebuilt myself into this person that could interact with the world, and I was like, "No, I don't wanna go back to lockdown and locked in," and I was terribly scared for my own mental health, but I was also terrified for other people's mental health because 'cause I'm like,
Yeah.
I know what it is to live in that kind of restriction, and I know that it isn't gonna be good." So I was like, "Okay, so what can I do?" So I
Yeah.
had just started school, or no, pardon me, I started school within, a month of COVID start. And I was like, I was doing stand up at the time, with some mental health groups. And I really wanted to do some outreach, but I was like unable to get past the fence in my yard. So this one night in March of 2020, Lucy from Peanuts came to me in a very vivid dream and was like, build it and they will come. And I was like, okay, that's right, crazy. And I should never tell anyone this story. And then my mom called, and of course I told my mom, and she's like, "Oh, I think that's a great idea. You should do some street comedy." So for
Awesome.
21 months of COVID, every Tuesday and Thursday, I took to the streets of Vancouver, right at the corner where I sat at Nanaimo and Fifth, and I did something called the Sit Down Stand Up Comedian. Ultimately, the first time I did it, I was like, well, this will be cute for a video or whatever. And the
Yeah.
people that came to me, I was like, oh, this is so much bigger than comedy. And comedy is just
Yeah.
an opportunity to welcome the hand, right? And
Yeah,
I
it's
met
just the door.
thousands and thousands of people who talked to me about a myriad of different things. Granted, there was levity involved in some of that, but not always.
Mhm.
Sometimes it was sadness or what have you. So it was a replication of Lucy's psychiatry stand, and I gave away street therapy for 21 months until they sold my house and I had to move. But just to give you a glimpse of what that looked like, here's the
Oh
comedy
my God, that's
stand.
awesome. That's
And my
amazing.
boyfriend erected a lemonade stand effectively for me to be able to do that. So,
Yeah.
what I learned was people will step towards vulnerability if I give them the opportunity and give them the space to
Yeah.
actually show up.
Yeah.
And
A
so many
hundred
people were
percent.
in image and terrified and not know where to look. And there was tons of othering. Well, it's still going on, but
Yeah.
if I'm pointing a finger at someone else, fingers are pointing back at me. So how can I make space for all of the things to show up, whether you're on this side or that side or this, or, you feel
Mhm.
this way or that way, just really inviting people into the conversation. And the impact of that was so great, not only for myself. I learned so much about myself, but I learned how to expand into my humanity over and over and over again when I was posed with things that didn't completely align with how I was feeling. So it was a very expansive experience for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah,
thank you.
what an experience.
Mhm.
And like you said, not just for everyone else, but also for yourself, which
Oh my
is
God, yeah.
huge, right?
It's
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about integration because I know you're kind of an integration specialist. So because I spent so many years learning,
Mhm.
I love information. And I think that's part of the trauma brain too, is I just
Mm,
will absorb as much healing information from like self-help books or whatever. I did the courses and the workshops and all that. But always something was missing.
yeah.
And when I read about what you do and how there was just this little something on your website that clicked with me, and that was that the integration part, and that you can learn all you want, but if you don't actually learn how to integrate it, awareness doesn't mean a whole lot.
Right.
And so talk a little bit about that, what that means for you and how you do that with your clients.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, integration is that piece where we actually have to embody those changes that we
Yeah.
want to make, right? Because we've all
Yeah.
been to the programs, we're like, yeah, this is amazing. I love this learning. And then we get home
Yeah.
and we put the folder aside and it becomes one of those
Yes.
things that I did yesterday or the day before or 3 years ago or what have you. And it's not, we have epiphanies, right? During these processes, we have oh, aha moments. I had never really considered that before, or I'm really excited to move into that. Here's the thing, unless we actually intentionally practice integration. And my take on that is we do that in groups. Group work,
Yeah.
in my opinion, is where the most integration can happen because you're talking about mirroring it or reflecting it to different people. And we all have a different
Mhm.
context, right? We look at life through a context window, each one of us, which is um, informed by every situation, every experience we've ever had. That's why we see people, you know, uh, um, usually fighting about, well, I believe this. This is my belief, and this is my belief, and
Right.
now we're at war, right? Well, how can we actually open up the conversation such that we can actually expand and learn, so that we're not attacking one another? And
Mhm.
effectively, it's like dropping the tug of war rope. Right?
Mhm.
So we can
Yeah.
only be fighting that stuff when we're actually tugging on that rope back and forth with other people that uh, refuse to understand. And so integration includes understanding, it
Mhm.
includes uh, suspending our thoughts and beliefs and not attaching to that stuff and making meaning of it or judging someone. And that was that practice at
Yeah.
the comedy stand, right? Like people would come and talk to me about their opinions. They're not completely in alignment with my opinions or my beliefs at the time. So it was like, okay,
Right.
coming back to my intention. My intention is to raise the vibration of love and joy on the planet and reach out to people and connect with them. That level of
Yes.
vulnerability takes suspending judgment, right? So when people were
Yeah.
saying things that didn't completely align, it was like, okay, so get back in tune with what my actual intention and purpose is. Now,
Mhm.
integration is one of those things because it takes the application of it. So, right, we come together in our room. So we have a myriad of ways that we do integration in our programs.
Okay.
And I say we because Carol and I work together mostly. So outside of my counseling practice, we work
Right.
together in coaching and Soul Spa and Sacred Seven and all these programs that we've written,
Mhm.
which is great. You get the knowledge of that, but unless you're actually applying it in your life, then it doesn't mean anything. It won't actually
Yeah.
have an impact. It's kind of like, um, I call it, the checkup from the neck up. Like, we
Yeah.
we get stuff in our head and we can
Mm.
mull it over in our brain. We're currently accessing, less than what 10% of what our brain is capable of,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
our
Yes.
heart actually has a brain. Did you know that? It has neurons. It actually gives more information than it gets, and we have a
Yeah.
tendency to live from here instead of here. And heart math will um, teach us that we actually need coherence, which means that we need to be connected from here and here in order to actually integrate those things in our everyday lives. So it's an
Yeah.
embodied experience. It's something that we actually take into our lives and try on. Okay, that really worked this week, and here's what I realize about that. So when we get together in our classrooms and people start to talk about their experience, other people are more caring, they're more considerate, they're more kind to themselves and other. Even
Yeah.
though we may not always agree with things, it's just such a remarkable thing. We've been meeting with our one group, excuse me, just for over 2 years, and from people from all walks of life and all over the world and all kinds of different political views and experiences, ages, eras that they're going through, and the deep level of care that's coming from those places is just so remarkable to see. And someone in our class the other day said, please understand, the dozen people, 20 people that are in this classroom are learning, but we also take this with us. So
Mhm.
similar to the commie sound, right? It was like, my girlfriend asked me, she said, "How are you gonna, detach your worth from when people won't see you out there?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a good question because my worth has always been, you know, am I
Attach
worthy?"
to others.
Right? Can you
Mhm.
tell me I'm worthy? So it was a
Yeah.
practice in reminding myself, right? I am here with the intention of spreading joy. So whether or not that person gets it or not is beside the point. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so really coming to terms with the fact that I'm living my life. I'm living it in the way that I know how, and I'm always in the process of learning. So that integration happens over time. It happens on a daily basis when we actually carve out time and make it intentional, right? It's not something that's just going to happen naturally. It's something that we actually have to intend and then be in service to and question. And I like to look at everything through the lens of curiosity. I try and practice that for sure, kindness and curiosity. Now, that was very easy to give to others on a regular
Yeah.
basis and
Mm.
very difficult to give to myself because this thing is pretty mean, this self-critic that lives up here, and getting a handle on why those fragmented, fractured pieces that you mentioned in the beginning that we think that we need to get rid of, are here in the first place. It's a survival function because we wanted to be connected and loved and accepted and belong. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that we hear in our classroom is this longing for belonging. And I think it's a human condition.
Oh,
And I
for
think quite
sure.
often we're convinced that we can't or that we shouldn't or that we don't. And in fact, my big thing, one of my core values is inclusion. And so trying to include people and understand that you're seen, you matter,
Yes.
your story matters, all of those things, because I believe everybody has a story that is worth being told. And I believe that everybody has something to share and something, you know, uh, to live aligned to. And it may be different than mine, but it's equally as important.
Yeah, exactly. There's nowhere in there is does your worth come up in being diminished in any capacity, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's the ability to um, hold space for your own views and opinions and beliefs and all this, and also be open to other people's and not have it doesn't have to be a battle like you were saying with the tug of war. Yeah, I love that. Yes.
Yep. And it's a practice, right? Because it's imperfect.
Yeah.
I would love to think that I'm healed and lovely and wonderful all the time until I get into traffic and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Right. That's
Yeah.
usually when it gets tested. And there are many other times as
Mine too.
well, but really noticing that stuff, right? Okay. So
Yeah.
lately my practice has been, okay, so there is an activation happening in my body. My blood pressure is
Mhm.
rising. My breathing is shallow. My nervous system is not okay. And instead of reacting to that person, place, or thing out there, it really has been taking that.
Mhm.
Dr. Zach Bush talks about 7 seconds.
Yeah.
So we need to take the 7 seconds just to breathe into our body, be embodied in this moment, and actually come from a response of what is actually going on.
Mhm.
Because that hypervigilance in me, used to react to my partner, and he would often be offended by the way that I was reacting, but it was a survival function.
Yeah.
Once I got a handle on that, I was like, okay, so now I can explain it in a way that doesn't feel like an attack to him. It just
Mhm.
honors what's actually going on for me. So, and getting really clear also about what support looks like and doesn't look like, right? He's a
Yeah.
heady guy. He likes to fix things, like men tend to like to fix things and jump in and fix things. So now I have to say, okay, so I want to just I wanna, m play with this, I wanna speak about it. I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to
Yeah.
fix it. Are you okay with that? Are you capable of doing that?
Yeah.
Because what happens is he jumps in and tries to fix it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it creates that distance in our relationship because I don't feel close and respected, but I didn't define what it looks like or feels like either. So now
Yeah.
that I'm doing that, it's definitely helping, bridge that gap.
Yeah, and I think that's important in so many relationships and not just your spouse too, because there's going to come a day when your spouse really can't handle that in the moment,
Yep.
and if they're able to be honest with you because you've been open and honest with them about like, can you handle this right now? Because I don't need you to fix.
Yeah.
Because I am with a fixer too, and
Mhm.
I'm a fixer, and
Yeah.
so that can get really tricky.
Yep.
And so
Absolutely.
communication is so key to
Yeah, it is
all of those
huge.
relationships, right?
100%. But even
Yeah.
asking him, like, "Do you have capacity for this right now?" He
Yeah.
kinda looks at me like, his thing is, "I'll make it work." I'm like, "Okay, where did the make it work come from?" Right? Is
Yeah.
that true for you? Like, did you have a long day? Because sometimes, what
Yeah.
happens is we're on 2 different pages, they come in the door and we go, "Here, you have this because I don't wanna hold on to this anymore," right? I didn't
Yes.
consider, does he have the capacity? Does he have the ability to be there and present with me so that he's not trying to fix it and his activation is now happening and we're both anxiety ridden and nobody's okay, right? So, um
Exactly.
yeah, and it's a practice
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and I think that can go for the kids in your home too. I don't have any kids at home anymore, but
Yep.
I think that goes hands down. That's for everybody.
Mhm.
Teenagers coming through the door, they've had hard days too, and they
Mhm.
can't always handle what you're going to throw at them when they
Yep.
walk through the door and they leave their shoes and their backpack sitting in the middle of the floor.
Right?
Like, yeah, that's just yeah. I love how you explained that. So it's so important to
And they
just
don't care. They don't care about those same things that we do, right?
no, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't care about that kind of stuff, but we have to if we learn the tools and the
Mhm.
strategies to, like, ask ourselves those questions, like, "Do they look like they have the capacity to handle this right now?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a good time," right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe I
Yeah.
can step back a bit and hold this for a bit more, so, yeah, I love that.
Choose your moments for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
Mhm.
So, one more thing I wanted to talk about too was
Sure.
there's so much pressure to heal fast. And
Okay.
I love what you said about your heart having a brain,
Mhm.
because if you grow up in trauma,
Mhm.
you detach. Like
Mhm.
there is a dissociation there between the body and the head. And
100%.
and I think people when they start to go on these healing journeys and they want to do better and they recognize their awareness is heightened, they just want to fix it fast.
Mhm.
And that's a
Mhm.
brain,
It is. Yep. Hurry
response.
up, hurry up, hurry up.
Exact hurry up and hurry up. So What do you think people really misunderstand, keeping in mind that somatic piece about healing and the length of time that it actually takes?
Oh gosh. I don't know that healing's ever over. That's my
Yeah.
truth about that, right? I've been intentionally at this since the 90s, and I keep thinking, when am I going to graduate to this place called healed? Hasn't happened yet. Don't know that
Yeah.
it'll happen tomorrow or next year or the year after. What I know to be true is that when I came to understand what hypervigilance was in my body, right? That need to keep moving.
Mhm.
If I'm a moving target, you can't hit me. Right. So
Right.
quite often people in their nervous system are at that
Mhm.
state without actually realizing it, even to into and including, sadly, I'll say, not my proudest moment as a parent, but I would drive fast, right? Even driving fast, getting places quickly, like always on the move, always on the
Yes.
go, crammed full of stuff in my calendar, thinking that that was what productivity looked like,
Yeah.
understanding now that in fact I did myself a complete, and my children a complete disservice,
Mhm.
by, and I just didn't know, right? So now that I know, it's the slowing down piece is so vital, because that's when we can actually hear our intuition. Our intuition
Yes.
is constantly trying to get at us, but it's subtle and quiet generally, right? Until it gets louder,
Mhm.
and knocks on the door louder. But when we actually slow down, our breathing slows down.
Mhm.
We're in that rest and digest state, right? So we're actually accessing our frontal cortex, and we're able to respond with innovation, empathy, creativity, all those things that we can't do when we're in the back of our reptilian brain and everything's shut down and everything's on the hunt for where the danger is coming from and when it's going to get here,
Yeah.
right? And so the slowing down piece really is breathing into the body, being present in this moment instead of worrying about God, the 20 million things that have happened in the past that may come back, because we're always using our evidence, right? We've got
Mhm.
evidence that supports this is the way, why we do the things that we do. If we can
Yeah.
start to intentionally create an evidence folder, my friend Stacy labeled it as such, and we've kind of garnered that name and said, like when things are good, when things are slow, when things are actually happening in a positive way, or someone reflects back to you that they really appreciate something you've said and or the way that you are in the world or what have you, then we start adding that evidence, and those now become the things that we start to look for instead of all the danger signals, right? And so
Yes.
the slowing down is vital. I studied Sarah Landon last year and the year before, and one of the things that she said that was confusing to me at the time but now makes perfect sense is, we slow down to speed up, and I'm like, okay, my
Mhm.
logical brain goes, like, I don't understand that. um and it was through the meditations and taking the time. Now, granted, a lot of hypervigilant people, especially people with capital T trauma, but even little t trauma in their childhoods, the slowing down feels dangerous, right? It
Yeah.
feels like I can't possibly do that. I'm not wired for that. Well, here's the good news: is we can rewire our systems, right? We can
Yes.
rewire our brain because of neuroplasticity. There's all kinds of scientific evidence that supports this theory. And so when I actually, started to understand what Sarah was talking about, oh, I slow down and actually I do less and
Yeah.
I'm more productive.
Yes.
Now, logically it doesn't make sense, but neurologically it does, because when I'm actually calm, it's a state of
Yeah.
calm, surrender, serenity that happens in my body. I touch my heart. Naturally, when people are in that state, they touch themselves here,
Mhm.
right? It's like an embodied experience of, oh, that's what it feels like
Mhm.
not to be in stress, and that gotta go in this moment.
Mhm.
I would say that my adrenal glands, bless them, for continuing to do the job that they do, but I was like, they were rock hard all the time because I was in stress in my body, cortisol shot after cortisol shot, and now coming to
Yeah.
understand the damage that that does, because it's a a state of biology, right? So
Yeah.
those things are happening in the body, those chemicals are being released, but I actually control those things. And I
Mhm.
used to think they were outside of me, and now I understand more fully that I get to control that at any given moment. And that
Mhm.
even if I'm reacting to something, when I notice it, it's my job to respond to myself and go, okay, so I really crapped the bed there. I didn't mean to say all those things or react in that way. I need to take a moment for myself, right? And it's that
Yeah.
taking a moment, using breath work, generally, this thing that we did the moment that we were born, and that the last thing we'll do as we leave this planet is breathe, right? And quite
Right.
often people will convince themselves, well, I can't clear my mind, and I can't meditate, and I can't be in that state. Well, we can't because we don't practice. And it's
Yeah.
in the practice that it becomes better. I don't know if it's ever perfect. I don't plan to be a monk on some
No.
mountain oming myself. But I do know that when I do take the time to presence myself, and I actually take the time to embody that feeling of expansion, that
Yeah.
my adrenal glands release, that my heart starts to slow down, and that's that rest and relax, restore and rejuvenate state that's available to us in any moment. So even in those high intense experiences that we may be having, we can still be in that calm state if we choose to be, and we practice that, right? It's like a muscle. You're
Yeah.
not going to go to the gym and lift a weight and go, wow, look at that big muscle in one
Yeah.
day. It's going to take
Exactly.
time that we'll see that accumulate over time, right? So
Yeah, exactly. And the same goes for the thought process about quitting. It's like, oh, well, I don't see any results after 2 days. I may as well
yep.
quit.
Yep.
It's like it's ridiculous. But I love that getting in tune with your body, that speeding up, like slowing down to speed up is so
Mhm.
true because we are such creative beings. And I
Mhm.
honestly had convinced myself I wasn't creative until I
Mhm.
slowed down and
Right.
understood what that meant in my body. And all of a sudden, my brain sped up in the creativity field, and that's huge
Mhm.
if you really are working towards goals and dreams and stuff like that. And you've literally over time convinced yourself that I'm just not capable of that. I'm not creative enough.
Right.
And what I realized was, yeah. And I think we all have that capacity. So,
100%.
yeah.
Creativity is one of those things. You think about the school systems or any of the systems that cut funding for any of those things.
Mhm.
Music and dance and creativity, art, those things continue to thrive even though the environment says, no, you can't exist, right?
Yeah.
There's something to that. And what
Oh,
if we gave ourselves the opportunity? I've never considered myself an artist, but I'm a twice published author, third time in March of this year. So is my creativity looks different than other people. So I'm not a
yeah.
photographer or, whatever. I bake cakes and I do beautiful things.
Mhm.
I'm a speaker, right? Those things are all creative. And
Yeah.
when we give ourselves the expansive room to actually come into alignment with who we actually are and live up more aligned with our purpose, those things it's a natural outcome in my experience of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So true. And I think it's such a shame that they take a lot of that out of schools because it's the one outlet that a child may have to really get back into their body. And
Yeah.
even those kids who aren't used to getting back into their body, some kids like music, some kids,
Mhm.
want to dance or run in the gym. That that is such a vital component to
Yep.
growing properly and
Agreed.
and having all your systems balanced, right?
It
So
was a
yeah.
lifeline for me, right?
Oh,
Drama and choir was a lifeline. And in a place where
yeah.
I didn't fit in anywhere, I was like, okay, well, I fit in with the misfits then.
Yeah.
And that creative outlet. So, coming out of my reclusiveness, whatever you want to say, over that 10-year period, it was like all of the sudden desire outweighed the reasons why not, right? So my
Yeah.
desire compelled me to go, okay, so I'm going to take a dabble at this thing called life. Now, I was the typical stage mom of my kids love drama and theater. No, I loved drama and theater.
Yeah.
They did it because I asked them to, bless them. And I
Exactly.
finally came to terms with the fact that I wanted to be on stage and I wanted to sing and I wanted to be seen. So I was like, okay, after coming out of I will never leave my house again in my whole life to I'm going to go be on stage. Now it was, when I got accepted and they said yes to that. So my first play was Jesus Christ Superstar. Great musical, right? Didn't know a lot about it going into it, but I like to sing. I can sing. I have a voice, and I don't read music or anything, but that outlet was of creativity was so vital in my return to self. And
Yeah.
so giving myself those moments, I eventually did some producing and some stage directing, Jack and the Beanstalk. We also did, um, oh gosh, let's do the time warp again. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. I
I'm
can't.
just as tough
The
as
Rocky
you are.
Horror Show. Sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
good
not
Lord.
perfect show.
Terrible, terrible, terrible. But those things taught me that that living with passion, right? So what actually feeds me, and
Yeah.
those outlets fed me in a way. And although I mean at the time I didn't know my worth, and I was still sort of begging for crumbs, I now know better. But it was through each step that eventually I came to understand that. And now I
Yeah.
don't ask anybody for my worth anymore. I just show up knowing what my worth is. It walks with me through the door. And I don't feel like I need to hustle or beg or rush. And another person that I follow, Mike Dooley, talks about standing in the river. Now the river's always flowing, yes?
Yeah.
Like it never stops. It just continues to flow. If I'm standing in the river, manifestation to me is standing in the river and collecting what's coming to me,
Hmm.
letting the water flow to me. It's already flowing, right?
Yeah.
And taking my part or my portion of that instead of, needing to run around and take, take up too much time running around, bouncing off all the walls, trying to prove my worth, trying to get to that thing that's continuously elusive because it's always over there.
Yeah. Or trying to gather from sources that aren't flowing.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like banging
absolutely.
your head against a wall.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, proving that I'm gonna make this work. Yeah,
That's
no, that
right.
yeah, you can let it
Exactly.
go.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Honestly, I hope that the audience has so many takeaways from this conversation. So, where can people find you, and what kind of workshops do you have going on? If you're in the area in BC,
Sure.
um, that people can join you guys.
Yeah, thank you for that. Our website is letsgetinfinite.com. So
Uh
really
huh.
easy. All of our socials and everything else are on there. We have we do sacred blueprints, which you can order online, which gives you a little bit. We use numerology and a number of different
Uh-huh.
modalities or draw from these experiences to put a blueprint together. Usually pretty accurate to who we are based on when we're
Hmm.
born and where we're born in the world and etc. Leans a little bit into the gene keys, which I study as well. So just really coming to how well do you know yourself?
Yeah.
And can you take the time to actually know yourself and then celebrate yourself, right? So
Yeah.
that's amazing. We just started the Hero's Journey again. So we do the Hero's Journey, the Wizard of Us. It's a 10-week program. We just started that last week. What I loved was my mom just did the last one. So I had my mom in my classroom, which was pretty great to be teaching with my mom.
Nice.
And have her receive that and do well in that classroom. And now I have my partner in my classroom. So I'm
Oh,
really loving
amazing.
and digging that. Yeah, I mean, 8 years ago when we got together, that would have been a heck no, never gonna
Yeah.
happen, and today it's a reality, but we continue to
Yeah.
do that work together. That's a 10-week program. It is online, because we do have people from all over the world that join us.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we do is online. My girlfriend's on the Sunshine Coast. I'm on the, near Vancouver in British Columbia, so we do
Nice.
quite a bit of stuff online. We do Soul Spa every Wednesday morning. We get together from 7 to 8 in the morning. We talk about a myriad of different things. We bring, from sex talks. Again, it's her dad and my mom that are in the classroom with a bunch of other people. So it's very interesting to talk about these things. But these are
Yeah.
things
No
that were
kidding.
taboo. They were taboo when we were kids, right? And we're
Oh,
opening and
yeah.
expanding the rules around what we can and can't do, and the healing in that room is so astounding because people actually grow to really care about one another. And I believe that that
Yeah.
is what we're missing in today's world, is that piece of humanity of first getting to know people on that basis. Because
Yeah.
usually we're against you because of this, or we can't be with you because you have this
Yeah.
feeling or this notion. It's just a room where all people, all opinions, all stories, all experiences are welcome. And we just keep making space because that's
Yeah.
something that we do. We offer integration calls with all of the programs that we teach. So Hero's Journey has a monthly integration call for all the graduates. We have something called the Sacred Seven. The Sacred Seven, the board of your becoming. So the idea is that we can access people, places, and things from past, current, or fictional, that we can tap into their resources and their wisdom. So
Hmm.
Conversations with
Interesting.
Consciousness was born last year, and we continue to see really great results from that. That's also an online course that we have one starting on January 24th and February 7th. That's a 2-class thing. We do coaching, a PQ, mental fitness coaching, as well as a whole slew of other things. So you can all find
Yeah.
that on our website and check that out. And I am a registered therapeutic counselor. If anybody wants some counseling as opposed to coaching, they can find
Yeah,
me at soulsunrisestherapy@gmail.com.
that's awesome. Thank you. You got a lot going on. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, keeps you busy.
Yeah.
And I hope people reach out to you because honestly, you have such a great energy about you. And
Thank
I
you.
just love the stuff that we talked about. And I know there's so many people that will resonate with it. And yeah, any parting words before we go?
Well, just a great thank you, Krista, for putting yourself out there, for understanding that you can use your purpose, for inviting others to share conversations with you. I loved looking at your website and all the things that you're up to in the world, and I feel like that there's some resonance there between you and I. And I've really enjoyed our conversation today and getting to speak. And thank you for the gift of confidence about my energy. I appreciate hearing that. It's my intention, so I'm glad that it's being received as it's
It
intended.
is. Definitely it is. It's awesome. I
Yay.
love it. So
Yay.
thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me today on another episode of Becoming Sound. If this episode resonated with you in some way, please share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It helps to get this information out to more people who may need it. If you have a sec, I would love a follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. While you're there, hit the 5-star rating and give me a review. When you're scrolling, follow me on my social platforms, and I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Have a fabulous day, lots of love and gratitude from me. Please note, the views, information, and opinions expressed during the Becoming Sound podcast series are solely those of the individuals involved. The content of this podcast is to educate, inform, and for entertainment purposes only. This podcast series and the content presented does not constitute for medical or other professional advice or services. If you are in crisis or in need of help, please contact your medical or professional provider.